Hey, boys and girls. I uh, I went to the shooting range last night, and when I got back, I was logging my rounds for that day, and I noticed I've shot about 500 rounds through this. So I figured, let me tear it all the way down and see, what's going on. Because I've looked at it and it looks pretty intimidating from when you take the grips off. So it looks pretty complicated. And it was to a point, but I figured I'll go online, see if I can find the disassembly video that can help me with tearing it down and building it back up again. And I there were some videos, I just couldn't find one that was useful. Um, Either quality was really bad or the person doing it didn't know what they were doing. So long story short, it took me about 4 hours to uh, tear this down and build it back up again. So I figured and see if I can share that with you guys. Um, so let's get started. But before we get started, actually, um, it's fairly complicated what we're gonna do. So if you've never done this, you probably shouldn't do it. Get some practice in some other guns before you start tearing down a Sig. It's fairly complicated. It's German, so it's somewhat rational in what they're doing. It's just figuring out that rationality that it took me 4 hours. And I have a fairly good engineer's mind. So let's get going. I've taken the screws out of the grips. What I'll do is maybe I'll do two videos. I don't know if I can do one long one. Maybe we'll do the frame first and then we'll do the slide next. So let's go ahead and tear this guy down. The screws in my case for the grip were T-heads, and what you're gonna need is a set of T20 bits to take them off. Um, but yours might be different. Might be Phillips or just straight. So flathead. So we'll check. We'll cock the hammer. We'll check. Make sure it's empty. It does have a decocker. And I'm going to take this guy down all the way. I'm not going to worry about the slide right now. The slide is not as complicated as the frame. And there are some good videos on how to take the slide apart. But I'll focus on that in another video. So you're going to go ahead and take your grips off. Mine comes out. It's a wraparound. So basically, this is everything we're working with. You have your hammer spring and connector. We have our decocker and decocker spring right here, and then we have our slide release or slide stop lever right here. As far as inside the puppy, we have one big pin right here. I'll do this if that works. We have one large pin right here, which holds our sear, our ejector, and our safety lever all in one spot, all in one place. And then we have the large pin, which is our hammer pin. There's another little pin back here, which I'm not gonna screw with. It's just a spring that holds, that gives the hammer that little springiness, I guess, when it gets to the end. We're not gonna worry about that. I'm not gonna take that off. And then you have the block, which is going to come out, and you have the takedown lever that's going to come out. I'm also not going to take out the mag release because it's pretty open to go and clean it in there. It doesn't really need to come out. I won't take it out. On this side, you have the trigger connector bar, which is that right there, and the trigger bar comes back here, and we have our spring that actually gives it tension, where it holds it up. It pushes it up into the into its correct position. Another thing to note, let me see if I can get this closer. There you go. Another thing to note is our safety lever, which is this guy right here. You got to note the position on that, know where it is. It's going to be touching the little bump on the trigger bar, and it should be free floating. It should be nice and free floating. So what I'll do first is I'm going to take some pressure off the hammer by removing the spring. The way you would do that, you get yourself a screwdriver. In this case, I'm using a gunsmithing screwdriver with a 1/8 bit, flat screw head bit. You have a little opening down here. I'm going to put the screwdriver in there, and we're going to push straight up. Got to be careful. It's going to be under a lot of pressure, so I'm going to push that straight up and out. No, maybe not. Oh, we got to let the hammer down. You got to let that hammer down first. Take some pressure off of it. And then I'm just going to push that up and out. Yeah, it's under pressure, so be careful. And what I'll do, I'm going to group everything together, so when I'm putting it back together, it's not going to be difficult or more difficult. Put those aside. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and take off our block and our takedown lever. The way I do that is you face it up. As you're facing it up, we're just going to go counterclockwise. You're pulling on it, and on this side I'm going to be pushing. So as I'm turning, I'm pulling and I'm pushing, and it comes out to this point, and then you just keep turning until it just grabs, and you just keep turning and keep turning, and boom, it comes out. We'll put that aside. Once you do that, note the direction where the trigger pin is. It's going to be on the left side of the gun, where you have the little flathead mark. On this side is solid. So next thing we'll do is we want to take our block out, and that just pops out. Now there's a little spring in there, you got to be careful, and this spring is for the lever, and it goes in like so, and you just put it back in this shape basically, and we'll get to that later. I'm going to set that aside. So once you take the block out, your takedown lever is going to be just loose. It's only held in place by this little pin right here. Come on, camera. There we go. So we're going to take the pin out, and the way we do that is I'm going to grab me a 3 30-second punch. I'm just going to push that out from left to right, and I'm going to put that with my takedown lever. And at this point, we can go ahead and take out our slight release. Then we're going to turn on to this side. This is where the connector is, and we're going to take off that spring. Now the way you take that spring off is you're going to need yourself a needle nose set of needle nose pliers. The smaller the better, basically. So let me switch this to manual focus. That might help us out better. Okay, so underneath the trigger bar there's a little notch, that little notch right there, and we just want to release the pressure. I'm going to pull it down and out. So what I'll do is I'm going to just grab the spring, just going to push it down and bring it out, just like that. And the inside the hole, you have a hook. The spring actually hooks. The way you take it out is you hold it parallel to the grip and you just twist out and it comes right out. Yeah, see that little curve right there. And I'm gonna set that aside with my trigger stuff. Okay, now the bar is loose. What I'll do is I'm gonna push up on my trigger and be careful on the side, just gently play with it until it comes out. You just got to be patient. And boom, it comes out. Whoops. That's okay. It's a big, giant, solid block of trigger, which is actually kind of heavy. It's nice. I'm used to Glocks, and this is kind of refreshing. Okay, so I'm going to put these aside. Next, we're going to take off our decocker. Sorry, a little brain fart there for a second. Our decocker. Note the position of the spring, how it's going into the holder and then down, and then it kind of hooks into the takedown lever, or I'm sorry, the decocker lever. Again, I'm going to grab our pliers and I'm going to gently pull that out. There's that. And then you just remove that. Now there's a holder underneath this guy right here where there's a little notch. I'm sorry about this, guys. This camera is just too slow. Okay, yeah, there's this little notch right there. So it's going to go in the gun in this position. So in the back, it's going to sit like that, and I'll show you that once we're putting it back together. And the spring sits in there like so. The spring will sit in there like that. All right, I'm going to put that aside. Okay, set my spring aside, and the lever just pulls out. You don't have to worry about any of that hanging up or anything. So I'll put that aside. Okay, next comes the hard part, which is your trigger. I mean, not your trigger. Your hammer and your sear assembly, basically. One thing that you want to look for with this guy is, let me see if I can get the light in here so you guys can see. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you gotta see where the sear is. This is your sear right here, and this is the safety lever. This is what releases the sear. So kind of note that position, okay? And next thing what we'll do is I'm gonna grab my 330 seconds punch, and I will knock out the hammer pin. And I'm gonna go from left to right. It's gonna come out, and your hammer is not gonna go anywhere until you knock out the sear assembly pin, which is this little guy right here. So that's next. I'm going to knock that out, but before I do that, again, let's take a look at the position in which it went in. Yeah, so note the spring, how it's going in. That roll pin that the spring is hanging on, I'm not going to take that off. You don't need to take that off. It's not going to be a easy thing to put back in, and you're probably going to ruin the seal on that thing. So don't take that off. Leave it the way it is. But I'm going to push my pin out. Okay, now when I take the punch out, everything's probably going to go flying, so I'm going to put my hand on there and pull that out. Yep, so everything goes flying. Okay, now everything comes out. So now we have basically a bare frame. It's besides the slide stop, which honestly I don't think you need to take that out. I'm not going to. It doesn't really get that dirty under there. So yeah, this would be the tear down almost all the way down. It's a bare frame. You can get in there, you can clean it, you can do whatever you need to do, and you can go from there. And next, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do a reassembly. All right, guys, I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so here comes the painful part. So let me show you how exactly we're going to go in there. Our ejector is going to be on the far left side. So when it sits in here, it's going to sit like that when it sits in here. So we'll put that in first. But the thing that really threw me off last night was the hammer, the sear, and the safety lever. The way everything works is, let me go back to manual here so I can show you. Okay, the way everything works is you have your hammer, which has a little pin inside, and that pin needs to be underneath that little spring right there. You know, the one that we didn't take off, the little spring that's in there needs to go underneath it. And the way I do that is when I put the hammer in, I move it all the way back and it kind of pops into place. That's why I don't need to take this off. I don't want to take it off. Cleaning it, it's not that hard. You can get in there with a patch and then clean it up. It's not an issue. Okay, so your hammer, and then you have your sear that'll sit in here like so. This is the left side view, and if we flip that over, you can see a little notch, a little bump right there, and this is what gets pulled. So if the hammer is cocked like so, this is what gets pulled, which releases the hammer. Boom. So this is your hammer in the cocked position, basically, and that gets pulled and pop, basically. So what we'll do, and this is the safety notch where it won't hit the firing pin. That's what's nice about the SIGs, and you can carry them cocked and locked. So note that position. Now, the thing that threw me off last night is this is the top of the gun, right? So the safety lever is going to go in there. Let me do this so I can also see. So you're going to do that right there. So that would be the setup, and the key thing is this little guy right here, this little cut, is when your pin is in place, that little cut is what releases that sear. You see how it's pushing against the sear? So when we put the sear in, we need to put the safety and the sear in at the same time in that position. Because your trigger lever is gonna pull on this guy. It's gonna pull on this guy, which in turn will release the sear. So that's the position we want to have it in. Okay, yeah. Keep that in mind. And then the spring, I'll worry about later. We can do that in another time. Okay, so let's get the hammer in place, and the way I'll do that is I'm just gonna drop it in. I'm gonna grab my hammer pin, and from what I noticed, there's really no direction. It doesn't have to go in a specific direction, so I'm just gonna go in like so. So you see that, and now it's got a little bit of springiness to it. That's what we want. That little, let's see if we can see this. I can't see it, but that little spring is on top of that pin that was on the back of the hammer. Do you want to give it that springiness? So that's what that is. Okay, so hammer's in place. Next, what I want to do is, let me go back to manual, because that's gonna piss me off. Okay, so next one is we're gonna go in. The way I do this, I'm gonna grab my punch and put it inside. This is my 3/32 punch, and I'm just gonna go one level at a time. So first level is my ejector, which has 2 holes. The first one goes into the roll pin that's in the frame, and then the next one goes through the other pin. So that goes in. I'm going to leave my pin in there, my punch in there. So next, what we need to do is get the sear and the safety in there. Now I use a little bit of oil to keep the two together. It kind of holds it in place a little bit. It keeps it from moving around. But again, note that position. Note the position of that safety lever Okay. Okay. I think this is the best way to show you how it's done. It's the best way I can come up with. So my hammer's in there. My ejector is in there. Next thing I want to do with the hammer position back is I'm going to grab my sear and I'm going to put the sear in first. I'm just going to work that in there like so. I'm just going to bring it up to about there. So next thing is we're going to put our disconnect in, which is this guy, and I'm going to go between the frame and above the sear. So I'm going to go up like that, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit like this, like so, as I'm going in, because again I want that little cut to be in front of the sear, and then I'll just move the sear up. There you go. There. That is good. And then I'm just going to line the holes up right there. So I think my sear is too far up. Push it down. Alright, I'm just going to give it a tug. Yeah, I have a hold of it. I do have a hold of it, so okay. And I can see through. And I'm going to go in with a little bit larger punch and get everything aligned. And boom, I am all the way through. Gently remove it. I'm going to grab my sear pin. I'm going to go in just a little bit just to trap the disconnect and the sear in place. There. Okay. Just enough so things don't go flying out and falling off. So next, let me get this out of the way. Okay, so next is going to be our spring, and our spring is fairly equal length on both sides. I don't think it matters which direction it goes to. It's just one of them has to go to the bottom, which is this little piece is going to go to the bottom, and we'll trap the other side underneath. So I'm going to pull my pin out just a little bit. Be very careful not to just undo all your work. I'm going to put my spring in there in this direction with the top portion towards the left of the gun and the right portion towards the bottom of the gun, bottom right. I'll put it in and I'll drive my pin through it to hold it in place. I have to wiggle my extractor a little bit to get it in there, and that's in there. Okay, and push that in just a tad bit. Okay, so now the only problem is that spring isn't under pressure. So what we need to do, we need to move the spring underneath the roll pin. The way I do it is I'm going to grab it with my pliers, with my needle nose pliers, and I'm just going to maneuver it down. I'm going to grab it. I'll maneuver it down. So it's in there now. It's under there now. Focus. Yeah. So it's under there now. So just gonna get it nice and aligned. Good. Okay, now we'll go ahead and test. We're going to grab and pull on our disconnect right here, safety disconnect. There we go. This guy right here. I'm just going to pull on it, and that should let the hammer release the sear and let the hammer go forward. Yep. So there's the hammer, and the sear's under pressure. Everything's good. Everything looks good. Okay. So perfect. I'm going to move it back again. Let me bring my trusty workbench back into the picture, so I can show you the trigger. So we're going to put the trigger and the trigger bar in next. So little hole, that pin goes inside that little hole right there. I think what we need to do first is just position this underneath. Oops. Yeah, get that underneath here. Because that bar needs to go on top, but behind right there. Okay. Oh, shoot. You guys didn't see it. I never updated this. Okay, so the way it's going to go is your trigger bar is going to go above the frame right here, and this little knob is going to be right behind our disconnect. So I'm just going to put that in that position. I'm going to put my thumb on top of it so it doesn't move, and grab my trigger and put the trigger in. Swing it down and go through the hole. There we go. So the trigger bar is in now. There you go. Next thing we need to do is we need to grab our spring, which went inside the hole, and it hooked underneath. And I'm going to put that in again, parallel to the grip. And God damn it, find the hole. There you go. Oops. Slippery fingers now. Alright, that's in. I'm going to grab my pliers, and we're going to place that hook underneath that notch right there. So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to maneuver it so it's underneath that notch. There. So there's that. Now we can test our trigger. I'm going to put a bigger pin, which is a 1/8 punch, through that trigger. And if I pull the trigger, and I'll put some pressure on the hammer. See, if I put pressure on the hammer, it's not going up. But as I'm adding pressure, I'm going to pull the trigger, which pulls the disconnect. Maybe. Everything's good. Oh, wait. Put that in there. Yeah, I need the actual pin in there before that works. We'll put the pin in there. I'm just gonna test that real quick. Yep. So yeah, once I get the actual pin in there, so there's no play, because the tolerances are very, very small. So there it is. So I pull the trigger, that pulls the sear back and releases the hammer. Okay. All right, we're good. I'll leave that pin in there. It's okay. You can leave it in there for now. We'll get to its position here in a second. Make sure that your hammer pin is nice and even on both sides. A little bit of, if it's off a little bit here and there, it's fine, but just make sure it's good. Next, I'm going to put in my decocking lever, and the decocking lever has this little shelf which is going to rest. It's going to rest on top of, let's see, get some light in there, on top of this little spot of the hammer right there. That little flat spot. So flat on flat. But first, we're going to put this little guy in. This is our holder, and again, the way it goes in is this way, and it has a little notch in there for its house. You see that little notch down there with the hole? I'm just gonna fit that in. It's probably gonna get too dark in there for you guys to see, but get it in there. There you go. Just gonna straighten it out. Yeah, it needs to be in there straight. There you go. Now it's in there nice and straight. Yeah, you see that right there? That guy? Oh, God damn this camera. Yeah, that's that little flat piece right there. And I'm gonna leave my finger on it so it doesn't go moving around, but yep, that's the guy. It's just gonna sit in there like that with that notch on top towards the back of the gun. Alright, next I'm gonna grab my lever, put it in there. This acts as a stop as well as a holder for the lever. And then I'm going to grab our spring. And our spring is going to go in there like so. Try doing it with one hand. Okay. Once the spring's in there, you just put a little bit of tension on it, and I can move my finger. And that little hole back there is where your spring is going to go. So I'm just going to lift it up. Oops. I'm just going to assist it into its place. There. And it's in. And that's where that guy goes. So if that was cocked, you could decock it and we'll bring it forward. Decock, bring it forward. So that's good and working. Okay, so we have our trigger bar in and we have our decocker in. Next comes the hammer spring assembly, and I'm gonna do that. It's gonna go in the gun. I'll put this in last. I'm not gonna put it in now. I'll get it in, maneuver it in right now. It's gonna go in this direction. So if the gun's here, basically what you want to do is put this little notch underneath that bar on the trigger, so it's pushing up on it. So you have the force going forward. So I'm just gonna tilt it, hook it in, and you got to put some pressure on it as you're moving it back, and move the hammer back. If you move the hammer back and that moves down with it, you got it in the right spot. So I'm just going to hold it in place, put the keeper in there, and I'm going to grab my screwdriver and push it up, and it pops into place. So I'll move it back. Now I can feel there's actually pressure on the hammer, and we can decock. It works, and the hammer works. So just to give you a view of this guy. So move the hammer back, and pull the trigger, and it releases the hammer. And on this side, see that flat spot in there? It's so hard to get light in there. You press that, and boom. Alright. So that's back together. Now, next part is getting the block into position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pin out, and I'm going to place my slide release in there, and I'll put the pin back in. Well, actually, here, before I do that, I got to show you. You see these notches on that pin? You got a little one and a big one. Big one corresponds with the screw head of the pin. The way those work is when you go to put your block in, those notches have to line up to let the block in. So you have to turn it so it sits in there like so. See what I mean? You turn it so it corresponds this way. Okay. Just wanted to show you that. Okay, let's get the pin in there. Okay, the pin's in. Then I'm going to grab my 1/8 flathead and just going to turn that so it's vertical. I mean, it's horizontal to about that position right there. To about right there. You might have to move it around a little bit just to get this thing in. And then we're going to grab our block, put the spring, the little hook on the spring inside the little hole right there, like that. And I'm just gonna ease that in there. This part you gotta be patient because it's going in at an angle. And try and move that screw just a little bit, or that pin just a little bit. See if it helps things go in a little bit easier. Okay, yeah, you gotta keep that slight release out of the way. And then turn that guy. Boom. And we are in. Okay. Sorry. It was the mailman. Okay. So our block's in. Everything's in. And next thing we need to do is I'm going to grab my takedown lever, and I'm going to put that in with it at 12 o'clock, and I will turn clockwise. Now as I'm turning clockwise, I'm pushing in. So boom, we went through one stage, and just keep turning, and it's in. It's in here. Okay. Next, what I like to do, since we've been handling the gun, is let's lube some of these parts up. Okay, so the parts in here, what I need to lube up is a little bit by that trigger, a little bit in that sear, and need to be a little bit behind between the frame and the trigger. Okay, just gonna face it down, let that drip out. Okay. All right. Next, I'm gonna put my non-stop. I'm gonna put my grips on. So I'm just gonna grab him on the right side, go click in on the left side. You kind of have to work him up in there. And come on. Duh. Okay. Sorry. All right, that's in. And right there. Okay. So I'm gonna grab my T20. Yep. My T20. And I'm just gonna hand tighten these very carefully. I don't need to break them. As soon as it stops as soon as it starts resisting, I'm just gonna go a little bit past that point, a very small amount, just enough they don't fall out when you're shooting. And right there. And the other one. Okay, we are almost done. I will go ahead and put my slide on. There you go. And we'll test it out. Just gonna grab a snap cap, and what do I do with the magazine? Just gonna load one in there. It is a snap cap. Put it in there and fire. It seemed to fire. I'm just gonna hold the trigger down and reset the trigger. And it resets and fire again. Well, good. It is working. And then we'll try the decocker. The decocker works. The double action also works. Next thing is we'll test the travel of the firing pin. We'll just put a pin in there and there you go. And it works. So, alright guys, it is done. We'll work on the slide at another time. I'm kind of need to get back to my daily stuff, so this took a while. But yeah, remember, if you're going to do that, put away quite a bit of time just to make sure everything goes the way it should, and be patient with it. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, any comments. See ya.